Hello, I'm Janet Morena, Executive Director of Priests for Life and co founder of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, the largest mobilization of women, men, grandparents, siblings, and other family members who talk about their regret over abortion to help change hearts and minds and bring more people to healing. Well, I know you've heard me talk so many times about how abortion impacts women. We've also talked about men. So today we're focusing on the fathers. See, I don't even like to say women and men hurt by abortion. I like to say mothers and fathers because from the moment that baby is conceived in that mommy's womb, she is a mommy and he is a daddy. And we have to start getting into that mindset even more. Well, joining me today is a dear friend of mine. I actually haven't been in touch with her in a while, but her name is Catherine Coyle. I'm going to read a little bit of her background. It is amazing. She earned her doctorate in developmental psychology at the University of Wisconsin. She's a registered nurse and holds a master's degree in clinical psychiatric nursing. She has taught in both Edgewood College and the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Dr. Coyle developed a healing program for men who have been hurt by abortion and has scientifically documented its effectiveness. Based on that research, she authored Men and Abortion, A Path to Healing, available from Life Cycle Books. She is a contributing author for Peace Psychology Perspectives on Abortion, for which she wrote chapters on intimate partner violence, coercion, sex trafficking, war, genocide, and lost fatherhood. Dr. Coyle is also the co-director of the Alliance for Post-Abortion Research and Training, also known as Stand Apart, and is on the advisory board of the International Forgiveness Institute. She continues to pursue research and provides training in the area of forgiveness and forgiveness therapy. And what more can I say than welcome to the program, Catherine?
Thank you.
I mean, boy, oh boy. So we've got a rare treat here for our viewers, our audience, our listeners. And I want to start with what made you get so interested in focusing on the father, the effect of abortion on that guy?
I was in grad school, and Bob Enright, who is sometimes referred to as the father of forgiveness because of the vast amount of research he's done on the topic, pioneering work. And it was time for me to decide what I would do for a dissertation. And I wanted to somehow combine my respect for life views with this intensive project I had to do to complete school. And when I looked into the literature, there was just about nothing regarding men. And so I decided to develop a forgiveness intervention to help men who self-identified as having been hurt by a partner's abortion.
Right. Wow. Okay, so you did the doctorate, but then you went on, like I just said, to develop, write book, healing program. Tell us a little bit about that transition because, you know, it's one thing to do your dissertation, but then you took it others, you continued forward. So how did we get there?
Well, the dissertation itself, because it was an intervention study, took 2.5 years to complete. So I had invested a great deal of time and effort in that and was encouraged by Vicki Thorne, the late, great Vicki Thorne, to turn that work into a book because she said we just don't have resources for male partners of women who abort. And so that's how the book came about. And shortly after the book, maybe during, I connected with Vince Rue and Priscilla Coleman and got involved in research on the mental health effects of abortion for both men and women. And it just continued from there. People would invite me to speak because it was a topic with few resources and experts on, and it just continued on.
Right. Now, with the men, we have a couple of different categories, and I'd like you to comment on each one separately. But the first category is, of course, the father who says to the mother, we're not having this baby, or I'm getting out of here, or, no
Yeah.
way, no, you have to have an abortion. I'll take you, or here's the money, take care of it yourself. That mindset, that kind of guy, what do you have to say about him, and how long does it take him to wake up and say, "Oh my gosh, what have I done?"
Okay. So I think where you're starting from here is the various decision pathways that lead to abortion. And we have, of course, male partners who agree wholeheartedly with a spouse and they're on the same page, both okay with the decision. We have men who are ambivalent or even opposed, clearly opposed to the abortion, but they keep that to themselves because they feel that they need to support her, that this is her decision. We have other men who come out and say, no way, I can't support this. They even offer to raise the child, take on full responsibility. I have yet to meet one who had it turn out that way. They usually get shot down and she makes the decision. It is, after all, her legal power that controls that decision. And then we have the men you mentioned who we could go so far as say use coercion to make sure the abortion happens. To my knowledge, we do not have research that differentiates those groups of men and then looks at the consequences for them. But we do know something about them based on what they have chosen to share with us. And to those men who coerce or pressure their partners often have just as much difficulty after the abortion, or more so, than those who at least can say, I did everything I could to protect my child.
Right.
And when those men, what I found is when those men who coerce also had a poor relationship or an absent father, a poor relationship with him or no father, that really compounds the mess because they see themselves as being even worse than the fathers that they never had or that treated them badly. So it's difficult. And then in terms of counseling, we don't have a large enough data set for me to accurately tell you how many men, regardless of how the decision was made, how many men actually seek post-abortion counseling. But we do have a sense that because men are marginalized, because they're told you don't have a voice, that can create confusion about why do I feel so bad? It's her body, not mine. It's her decision. And so they don't understand their feelings or where to go to help process them.
Right. And then the final category with the guys too is because I've heard these, because of Silent No More, we get the testimonies. The guy who has a girlfriend in college and they break up, they go their separate ways. And then years later, he suddenly finds out, unbeknownst to him, he did get her pregnant. And then she did have an abortion and he didn't even know about it. Do you ever come across that kind of stuff? Like where they're healing? And what do you have to say about those kind of guys?
Well, I mean, that's very difficult because that's even more factors and relevant details that they have to somehow process and form a coherent understanding of what happened. It's a rejection of them and of the child, although I think we could say that about a lot of different categories of men. But I want to comment on something you said about the testimonies you hear. Now, I certainly value the scientific research. That adjective scientific is important. Objective research is what helps us gather data and understand it and make a case, a powerful case scientifically. But at the same time, having heard now hundreds and hundreds of men's comments, testimonies about their experience, those are so powerful, so very powerful. And yet they continue to be ignored. I'm sure you don't at Silent No More, but in society in general, those stories are ignored. And we know if it happened to one man, it happened to other men.
Right. Yeah. And do you find, because I know with Silent No More, we're very aware, our antenna is up on Mother's Day. the impact Mother's Day has on women who have an abortion, even if they've been healed, it's a difficult day for them,
Yeah.
especially if they were never able to conceive children after that abortion. Now they have no children, and when they ask, like at churches, oh, let's all acknowledge all the mothers here for Mother's Day, they feel like, can a hole open up the floor and swallow
Yeah.
me up? So, and now I'm thinking ahead now to Father's Day coming up. What about the men? Like, do they have that same angst about Father's Day? Oh, I was never able to be a father. Oh, but wait, what about that
Mhm.
girl in college? Do you
Mhm.
find that they too, like the women, feel like I was robbed of my fatherhood? What did I do? Kind of feeling?
You've covered a lot of territory in that one question. Yes, they do. Now, again, as a scientist, I have to say, I do not know of any study that looks specifically at Father's Day and the male partners of women who abort. I can't tell you anything about hard data and conclusions. But again, from the men's comments, we know that, like women, there are triggers. And some of those triggers involve significant dates, like the date the baby would have been born on, the date of the abortion. And yes, Father's Day is one of them. It is a painful reminder of loss. And as we know, there are some griefs that, while we can make significant progress, healing, there are some griefs we carry for life. And that's what I hear in the men's comments, because there's no undoing this. It's the death. It's the end of life. Now, you also mentioned women wanting this to be acknowledged in church on Mother's Day. Too many of our churches have been silent on the issue in any way, not just how Mother's Day and Father's Day may impact people with an abortion history, but they just don't talk about it. And that's a shame, because that adds to the shame, guilt, and embarrassment that partners may feel if it's something so taboo that it can't be talked about. Plus, it misses that opportunity in church to direct people where they might go to get some help processing their grief.
Mm-hmm. Now, with the men, I know of a case. This has to do with Rachel's Vineyard now. Down in West Palm Beach, Florida, there is a maximum security male prison where, like, these guys are in for life because they've committed violent crimes like murdering people. And the Rachel's Vineyard program has been for a number of years now inside the prison. And how it got there, I think you would find very interesting, because the deacon in one of their prayer gatherings just asked one little question. And he gave them pieces of paper to write a yes or no, fold it, and put it in a basket. There were 10 men in this prayer group. And he said, has anyone here had an abortion experience in their past with a girlfriend or a wife or whoever, significant other person? Do you know 9 out of the 10 said yes? And then he came back to them the following week and said, would anyone like to take a step about healing from these past abortions that, we kind of all said we had? And they said yes. They did their very first Rachel's Vineyard program inside this prison, maximum security, right? The team got permission from the warden to come in. And then after 1 or 2 retreats, some of the past retreatants said, we want to get trained. We want to do this. And to this day now, there's a team. Of course, the people on the outside help come in and monitor the team. But there is a team now inside this. These guys are in for life. They're not getting out. And Rachel's Vineyard. And the warden said he noticed, like, one of the guys was the meanest giant guy, 6'6", big guy. And the warden went away on vacation for like 2 weeks, comes back after the Rachel's Vineyard retreat. And he said, oh my gosh, the guy's whole demeanor changed. It was like a boulder was lifted off of him. And I just would like you to comment on that, because here's a place where the violence, could that have been stemmed from these unhealed abortions? Because isn't it ironic that how many men, and they keep coming now to be healed. the word has gotten out in the prison, so to speak. So is violence, because we see, as you know, so much violence in our society today, and after over 50 years of legalized abortion, and it's still continuing, even though we had Roe reversed, I think violence among men, some of it could be unhealed abortion, right? I mean, I know the example from the prison, but as someone like yourself who's looked and spoken to so many men and studying it, is violence a contributing factor?
It certainly can arise from the anger some men feel after abortion. Let me back up just a bit. At our organization website, which is standapart.org, you can download resources concerning both men and women. And one of the resources for men is a table. There's only 50 some studies in it. That's how little research has been done on this topic, published research. Now, the findings across those studies are pretty consistent. And one of the emotions men tend to feel after an abortion is anger. Sometimes that anger leads to violence, no question about it. When they act it out, it can be violence against the self or against others. So certainly the anger men feel can contribute to the violence you're suggesting is then possibly attached to an abortion experience. An interesting thing about anger, I think, as a psychologist, is that it can often be used as a cover for other emotions. I know I personally would rather be angry than anxious or feel guilty or sad. And for men who are given more messages against vulnerable emotions or the expression of them, anger is often a more acceptable emotion among men. So there definitely could be a connection there. Anger after abortion leading to violence.
Right. And now I know it's kind of exciting. You have a brand new study out. Can you tell us a little bit about the study? So, and then how to get more information about the study.
Sure. Again, you can go to our website at standapart.org, or you can go to the site where our latest internet surveys are. What we're doing is we are collecting survey data from both men and women who have experienced either a miscarriage or an elective abortion or both. And those surveys are located at mypregnancyloss.info. And we're hoping to do a comparison eventually when we have enough data of the two forms of pregnancy loss. What are the similarities? What are the differences? And we're also curious to see how the data support or disagree with the limited data that is already out there on men and women and the potential mental health effects of abortion.
Great, great. And so what would you just say if someone's listening right now, maybe it's a man who is connecting now with these thoughts and saying, oh, so that's why I feel this way, or someone knows someone like, gosh, my brother, I knew he told me about the abortion and look how he's behaving. Oh my gosh, what can I do? So whether it's the person connecting right now to this conversation or someone who has a family member, what advice would you give them when they say, well, what's the next step? How do we help them?
I would suggest they go to the MAN site. That's the Men and Abortion Network. And I believe that's menandabortion.net is the site. I will double check that for you because there are resources there for men. If they don't want to talk to somebody, I know the booklet I wrote for men and about men for the KCs is still online at Knights of Columbus Information Services. But my first suggestion would be go to menandabortion.net and look at their list of resources because there's a number of choices.
Okay. And let's say someone says, gee, even if I look at those resources, what should I say to my brother? or my uncle or somebody in my family that I know had a prior abortion experience, how would I break the ice of the topic now that I know the healing resources are there? How do I
Mhm.
broach the subject with them? Because to me, it's plain as the nose on my face. I now connect that they have a problem, but what do I say? What's the first thing to say or not say?
So you're saying this is someone they already know experienced an abortion, how to approach them to
Right.
help them in some way.
Yeah.
Well, I think I would start by saying you're not the only one. I love you. We love you, whoever those genuinely loving people are. And we want to see you feel better, because this single incident, no matter how grave, does not define you as a person. You are so much more than that.
Right. Yeah. That's really good advice. Um, you know, I just see what we experience here, with between Rachel's Vineyard and Silent No More and the work we do here every day. And I see how many people I'm actually working with a few people behind the scenes
Mhm.
that I'm trying to help get to healing. And, I want everyone to understand sometimes it's not just one conversation. It's
Yeah.
this gentle
Yeah.
bringing it up periodically, and saying, you might want to consider, if you're ready to go on a retreat or read this resource. And I find sometimes I say, no, no, I don't want to deal with it right now. I
Mhm.
think there's what I see is there's this idea of I don't want to go there,
Mhm.
or they'll say, I don't want to go there, I'm okay. Because they don't want to open up the wound again, right? I
Yeah.
mean, isn't that part of it?
Yeah. And that's perfectly understandable. I mean, we're talking about one of those most private and personal and life-altering experiences in the world for men and women. So it's understandable why they don't want to go there. And you can't make them go there. And I think we have to be careful not to take on this burden that it is in any way our responsibility to fix something or make it better. All we can do is speak the truth in love and say, I'm there. I'm there for you when you're
Right.
ready.
Yeah, that's what I find. That because I've had it happen to me. I can't tell you, Catherine, so much over the 30 years that I'm involved in the movement and
Mhm.
happening that I'll know something, someone will tell me something, and then they don't want to act on it. And then when I least expect it, suddenly they'll say to me, "Hey, Janet, remember,
Yeah.
I mentioned that thing about my prior abortion," and I say, "Yeah, okay, I think I'm ready now." And
Yeah.
I'll say, "What? Really?" Yes, I think
Yeah.
I think I'm ready to deal with it now. And then, of course, as soon as they say that, floodgates open, and get them on a retreat, give them the things to read. It's like we're here for you,
Yeah.
and we love you. And but you know what it is? I wish anyone listening right now who is hurt from an abortion would realize I have seen the change in people from the minute they say I want to take those steps
Yeah.
and they go through that healing and come out on the other side. They're a changed person.
Yeah.
Sometimes their whole facial expressions change, the way they stand and walk changes, the talk. It's like a peace. And I'd like
Yes.
you to comment on that because you've done this for years. The peace that comes over them. I just want to sell the peace, if you know what I'm saying. So what can you? I mean, you've been like me in this for so many years. You've counseled so many people. What can you say about when they come out the other side?
Um, what we see is related to one word: forgiveness. It's receiving forgiveness from God, from whoever else they may need to, and it is giving forgiveness to whoever they blame, and it is self-forgiveness,
Right.
forgiving themselves, and again, coming to an awareness that, as heinous as this may seem in someone's history, no one is defined by one incident, and they have infinite value, and they're here for a reason. So
Well,
forgiveness is the answer every time.
That's right. Well, Catherine, I really want to thank you for your contributions in all these decades, all your hard work, because back when you started doing this, you were, in fact, a pioneer for the men, as you know. It took a long time for us to even just get the women, to even speak out, but the men even longer. So I want to thank you on behalf of all the pro-life movement out there for your tireless work. It is much appreciated. So thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Janet, and God bless your efforts as well.
Thank you. Well, brothers and sisters, I hope you learned a lot today. And I want to just give you a few reminders here right now, a little homework assignment like I always do. First is Catherine Coyle's website, standapart.org. So important. You're going to go to that website and see the resources, see the research. It's scientific. When they say trust the science, they've done the science, and find out that information. And also, too, if you want to find a healing program right in your own area, go to abortionforgiveness.com. Again, abortionforgiveness.com. Just put in your zip code and you will see where's the nearest Rachel's Vineyard, Save One, or other healing program right in your area. And remember, there are some people only you are going to bring that healing message to, and only some people will receive that healing because of you. So do not be silent. That's Janet Morena. Thanks, and God bless.